to be the team we want to be, whatever the hell's going on in that halftime locker room, like we spoke about in Illinois, we bring that off the bus. And this team will like where they're sitting at the end of this season.
Elite expectations now should not come as a surprise to them because they did it. When you taste blood, are you gonna hunt and be the apex predator now, or are you just gonna swim with the other fish?
You know, I don't care what they're ranked or not ranked. That was a good ass football team that we went across country and slugged it out with and came out on top.
There's power in doing stuff like that, right? Like there's power in feeling success. Like everyone talks about how failure is like the biggest driver and determination of success. Like, nah, fuck that, dude. Like, get down in the trenches and fucking gritting it out with a like foe and winning. Yeah. Like, I want to fucking win.
Quarterback sneak right side, touchdown, Penn State.
And this segment's brought to you by Family Clothesline. They kept us looking sharp all weekend. I'm currently wearing one of the Lulu Polos. It's a Family Clothesline exclusive. Make sure you guys check out Family Clothesline for all of your Penn State apparel needs.
Couldn't be more excited to be hopping on with my guy B after that weekend and that performance. So without further ado, we are back again with another episode of The Pocket, post USC. Want to get some, pay some bills here early as we have been doing. Shout out to Family Clothesline. Yep. Always have the best stuff available. Anything you need, Penn State, logo, not logo. B's got the hat, as always.
Need another hat.
Phenomenal. They got the exclusive Lululemon drop with the insignia on it. Might want to go down there and check it out next time you're in town. But Family Clothesline is a great supporter of the network and everything we do, and we appreciate Caroline and crew over there. Ziebart. We're going to get to our Ziebart Defensive Play of the Week here later in the show. But Ziebart has been great. If you guys are looking for anything with your vehicle, car maintenance, so forth and so on, they'll make sure that your biggest investment is taken care of with the utmost care and precision. Lastly, our guys at Hidden Still with the blue-white straight Kentucky bourbon. We were handing some of that out a few weeks ago. Hopefully you folks are getting in on this like B and I are. Cheers, brother. Down to the
a great weekend.
And that's a good way to kick this episode off because I'll tell you what, man, what a performance. But let's dive into like around CFP, right?
Yeah.
That's what we've kind of been doing, a little banter. We're gonna blue ball here a little bit. We'll get to what we feel about the game in a little bit, but let's talk around college football, man. Like I thought there was a lot of good ball.
It was.
Even coming home after the game, you know, I was probably shouldn't be admitting this on air, but I was streaming some of the stuff, you know, peeking at it, but mostly audio, right? Eyes on the road at all times, 10-2, but a lot of good college football.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we had another kind of Alabama scare. Almost thought they dropped 2 in a row, which was kind of unheard of. But they pulled it out. They pulled it up against South Carolina. South Carolina is one of those programs. It's like they're always right. I don't want to say right there, but
they are. Yeah, but you're right. They always seem to be. Right there.
And it's almost, you know, just comparing, you know, fan bases. It's like every week. You know, we see what our fan base goes through. You hear it, and every week it's kind of like, you know, we could be this team. We could be that team. So kind of puts things into perspective where South Carolina is like, regardless of what people think, they have high expectations. You know, they've got money coming into that program. They're getting talent. They always have NFL guys, but can't quite seem to, you know, beat, you know, not even the top dogs, but the mid to top dogs in that conference, which is tough. SEC is tough, but they played a great game. Just not good enough. Bama and Milroe, they found a way to pull it out, but that was a good game. That was the first one I watched, and kind of well, I'll let you touch on that if you got anything to say about that one.
No, I mean, I had that circled too. I mean, are we worried about Bama? I mean, I don't know if they can do it. The way Texas blew Oklahoma out, obviously we're going to find out some more about Texas next week with their matchup against Georgia. you'll have some like-to-like comparisons there now, but like I really think when you talk about the SEC in terms of the way things have played out, now I'm sure this is going to come back to bite me in the ass for making an obscene statement like this, but I really do think it's Texas and the rest of the pack. Even the way that game against Oklahoma started, Ewers was a little slow, and obviously knocking some rust off.
First
You heard
game
the
back.
commentary, but like once the defense kept it within reach for him, very well within reach for him, and once they started turning it on, they ran away. I just think like from a complete football team standpoint, they're really, really good, and they're going to be tough. They're going to be very tough to beat down the road.
Yeah. Where is that game against Georgia?
That is a good freaking question, and I should know that. But I think it is at Texas.
Okay. Ooh.
It is
That bodes
in
well.
Oh yeah, that's right. Oh, game day is going to be there, so that would make sense.
Right.
It's in Austin. So
Get some Matthew McConaughey sightings.
Matthew, definitely going to be some Matthew McConaughey. I don't know if there's. I think people might be trying to kick that guy off the TV screen. But they look really good. I'll tell you what, man. The LSU Ole Miss game was a hell of a football game.
Right, yeah. Nussmeier, I've been hearing his name kind of get up there with some of these other quarterbacks in this upcoming draft. He made some questionable plays earlier, but at the end of the day, he made the plays at the end of the game, found his guys, and Ole Miss gets another kind of heartbreaker. Thought Jackson Dart played well again. They had some uncharacteristic drops. That first deep play to the top receiver, that could change the game early too. But LSU coming up big, kind of scratching, clawing their way back into this thing. I'm not sure where they landed at in this next AP poll they just dropped, but they might have broke top 10.
Yeah. No, I mean, they are scratching and clawing. And realistically, like when you look at that SEC, you got them, you got Tennessee, I'll even leave Ole Miss in that conversation. OT game, you really can't hold much against them. Similarly, I think to how people viewed Ohio State. I saw Aaron Murray even, and I don't necessarily disagree with it, where just Oregon and Ohio State potentially should have swapped in the AP. Happy we jumped it and we got to 3, but at the same token, that was like a national championship type feel, that game. And I guess we can move on to that. The Oregon Ohio State game, like to me, that felt like it was such a good football game, back and forth. Vet over there at Oregon with Dylan Gabriel just gritting it out, played really efficient. But then on the flip side, Will Howard played really well. Emeka Ibuka back in the fold, doing more and more. And then Smith is just that kid.
Yeah, kid's young Julio, man. It's kind of crazy. The Biletnikoff may come down to 2 freshmen.
Yeah.
That's crazy to hear, but each week, one of these 2 guys. I mean, I guess Smith has probably been a little bit more consistent, but both these guys are making plays left and right. But Smith looks like an NFL player. They talk about it all day, about how the way he came in mentally and physically, just ready to go. And it shows. I mean, kind of got called for that last play, but honestly, in the league, that's good money, But yeah, he looks like a young Julio to me. 6'3",
bro.
Not necessarily like Maserati Marv fast, but like a different type of movement, almost like a
fast as hell.
muscle car.
Even that 7 route they threw him, they underthrew it. Like he just blew by dudes.
Yeah.
Like I think he
powerful.
Yeah, he's not even like, he doesn't even look like he's moving that fast.
Yeah,
but he's just gobbling up ground.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable. But that like eerily similar. I feel like these Ohio State teams that end up being really, really good slip up early or have something like this happen to them. And I still think that they're going to be a problem when it comes to.
I mean, they had a chance to win it.
Yeah, CFP conversation, Big Ten conversation, and obviously, the one we got with them here in 2 weeks is going to be really big. But they even the year they won it in 2014 when we took them to double overtime, didn't they lose to Virginia Tech early that year? I think they lost to Tech early, or maybe that was another year that they had a run. But they had just a weird loss early, and I just think. This wasn't like they got beat. They had a chance. Right. And, they did get beat, but they just didn't – Oregon didn't just flat out outplay them.
Yeah. I mean, kudos to Oregon for coming out on top, but Ohio State definitely looks up to par, ready to go. I mean, obviously it's top number 3 team in the country, so, they dropped one spot. LSU also bumped up to 8 in the AP right behind Bama, so they're right in it.
Yeah. It's gonna be a fun back half of the season. Just you got the non-conference out of the way, and now you're really gonna get to see who's for real. I think in the Big Ten and SEC.
I don't want to forget to mention, and we don't have to dive deep into these. Tennessee had another nail biter. Florida came out, escaped that game, but Clemson and Notre Dame are back in it as well, where I kind of thought Notre Dame was surely out. But, I mean, we talked about at the beginning of the season with that schedule, the way they're playing, I think they found themselves right back in it too, especially if some of these, as we said, we got some more top 10 battles to go along down the stretch. They could, easily slide
they're
back
in the driver's seat as an independent still, so, I mean, you let the two bigger conferences beat each other up. Yeah. The Big 12, no one wants to win that damn thing. I mean, BYU is stretching out, but Utah was in the driver's seat there for a little bit. They lose to Arizona State on Friday night.
Poor Cam.
Yeah, poor Cam. But it's just that's a really interesting dynamic, and that's a good point, B. Sorry.
Boise State too, with their schedule, they're cleaning house with a lot of people think the Heisman hopeful Genty. I mean, they're sitting at 15, could easily same thing with Notre Dame. Kind of let these other big conferences beat each other up while we just run all over everybody.
No doubt. But that's kind of the news around the college football world. Our views, kind of 10,000-foot views, without getting too nitty gritty. But it's going to be a fun back half of the season, like we said.
I'll pose one more question before we move on.
Yeah, fire away.
Top Big Ten squad. If we believe Oregon and Ohio State were probably 1 and 2, do you give Oregon a nod because they beat them, or do you still kind of feel like, nah, they play that game 5 times, Ohio State gets them?
Listen, neutral site, I don't know, bro. Neutral site, I think it's tough. I still kind of to give them their roses, I'd just go 1A, 1B. Just to give them their roses for getting it done, and just out of respect for Dan Lanning, because I think he is a hell of a football coach. But at the end of the day, it was just – that was the quintessential football game. It was quarterbacks dueled it out. They both played really, really good, mistake-free for the most part. And it just came down to clock management. That felt like an NFL game. It felt like a college football NFL game in terms of situationally. College football, a little bit higher scoring than you typically see in the NFL, but situationally speaking, that game was all clock management, time of possession, getting the ball in and out of half. I know Oregon had, a few special team mishaps that could have drastically changed the outcome, but the same token, I just felt like that was just your quintessential ball game. That's the best way I could put it. I'm at a loss for words in terms of really being able to articulate it, but I'd say 1A, 1B, and then I'd put us right there at 2.
Yeah, I'm not mad at that. Not mad at that at all.
If I was to go down that, but with that being said, let's get into it, bro. Holy shit, what a win! We called a lot of that. I don't want to say, I don't want to give us too much credit, but I'll do a back pat here. But we called a lot of that. I think USC did exactly what we thought they'd be. A backed up in the corner dog that was fighting for everything they had. They jumped on us too. The slow starts bit us in the behind a little bit. But what a fight! What a finish! Yeah. What a second half!
Yeah. I felt that just talking about angst, anxiety from a fan perspective. I thought we kind of came out. That first scripted drive offensively. Koroniki, it was looking good. He was throwing so much, even the first 2 drives, really.
Yeah.
And it just hurts to not punch it in the red zone for 6 because, at least in my mind, I thought we came out with great energy. And those field goals, and they came out with a big play when they got the ball back on their second possession with the reverse touchdown. Got to give them that. I mean,
yeah, they got us in man. We got we didn't bump over. They out leveraged us with the
great call. Honestly, that's a point I was going to make later down the line, but not for nothing, we've gone against some great offensive coordinators. I mean, they were throwing some things. Even their second touchdown to the same number 0, they almost delayed screen slip out, teed up perfectly, man coverage again, caught us in the blitz, pinned the linebacker that had the running back out the back, and had the blockers out front. It was a great call. But honestly, I thought we came out great, and if we were able to punch them in the mouth early with 6 touchdowns, I think that game looks a little different, at least to begin with. Maybe they rally back, but I think we gave them a lot of life. Okay, we're still in this. And then once they scored, it was like I saw a different juice from their sideline and their players than I did in the first series or 2 in my eyes. And I thought we were running – we had a chance to grab control.
That's a fair point. Like, I don't want to say – because I agree. Like, I was watching the first drive. We threw a lot at them. We moved the ball at will. We were running it. We were throwing it. We didn't finish. Now, I thought that the first OPI on the touchdown to Tyler Warren, and I'll give the refs a ton of credit, and I don't like to be the guy that points at the refs and make it half of Twitter was that whole game where it was like, the refs are for us, the refs are against us. That was a payback. Right. I got too much respect for those guys. But I did think, they jammed the shit out of Fleming, and he just extended and was really – I thought he did a damn good job of selling like he was just running a backline dig. Mm-hmm. He really didn't try to engage. I think a lot of it was initiated by the defender, but, that is what it is. And to your point, I think that was really deflating, just not –
Yeah.
I agree. I think if we punch that in, then, the narrative is this was a fast start. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Even the play before that we scored. Oh no, the little rub we tried to run to T. Warren that we didn't necessarily rub, and he got tackled. We ran out maybe 2-3 times this game, and I believe we got flagged. The same young tight end, got flagged on it last week or 2 weeks ago. And I see that all the time, and you see it when it's done great in the league. You don't have to rub the guy. All you have to do is run your route and stop right in front of him, and everything will happen. You don't have to go and touch him, go out your way. Even sometimes you can ghost, as if you're going to run and just jump out the way. Yeah. And that slight hesitation will be enough space. But nonetheless, man, we recovered. Even like we said, we didn't necessarily punch them in the mouth to necessarily gain that great start, narrative. But, as we go through the course of this game, I mean, we kept fighting. Even, like we said, they had the big play, the reverse. We came back out, and I think the defense, they teed up a lot of great plays, and they had speed, but I thought the defense kept rallying, kept gunning for the ball, and ultimately I thought that was kind of what got us to the moments for Drew and these guys. I mean, and then T. Warren, we got to get to that. I mean, Psycho T for Heisman, that kid, it was almost amazing. I mean, we're talking about it on air, but how he kept getting open, and he was just eating.
He's a fucking football player. Yeah. That's it. If I had 11 of him, I'd win a lot of football. Same body type, don't care. He'd be playing right. He damn near did it, but he's just a football player. Right. But let's dive into that on the defensive side. I talked a little bit about it with Jason on air after the game, but I felt like USC was really something that we had done a really good job of was corralling the run game, limiting explosives in that aspect. Now, part of the things that we talked about was that this was probably the most talented roster when it came to people who could hurt us in space, like type guys. Guys are getting recruited by the same people, guys that we wouldn't mind having on our team. They wouldn't mind having a couple of our guys, that type of thing. But defensively, I was a little it seemed to me like it was the defensive line was trying to make such an impact in the game. And it kind of goes back to some of the stuff we talked about last year with our D-line. They just seemed to be so not patient and they were trying to make the game come to them rather than, or they were trying to come to the game as opposed to the game coming to them, I think. And a lot of times when we got gashed, it just seemed like we were really, really deep. We were really vertical in our in our rush and our gap responsibility. And then subsequently, like, I don't mind saying this, I think our weakest part of our defense right now is our linebacking core as a whole in terms of consistency and play. Yeah. And we talked enough about it. Like, I think that Tony Rojas is going to be a great player. Kobe King's played a lot of really good games up until this point, but like they're not quite where they need to be, I think. Yeah. And I'm sure they know that, and I'm sure they're being taught that and coached that, and everybody is, everybody's looking to take their game to the next level. But I felt like our D-line's inability to play patiently put them in some tough positions that ultimately resulted in some bigger runs in the run game. Yeah. Can you dive into that a little bit more with your expertise? Because that's, again, just a quarterback who knows the game a little bit, but not really the fine details of it.
No, I think you hit it right on the head, and I was going to make the same point. It's the same thing from last year. A lot of people are like, oh, Manny Diaz, what's happened since then? We're still just as quick and twitchy off the ball, but it's almost a gift and a curse. The TFLs we make, and we'll get to it later down the line in this game, it's for the same reasons that we get gashed. These guys are up the field, off the ball, quick and fast, and when we make plays, it looks great. But when you don't, and maybe you don't have quite that same angle, or you get off the ball on the wrong side, and if they could have a great play going left and we go right, then that's so be it. That's where getting up the field and being so quick off the ball kind of hurts you, because not only is the D-line not making a play, but that lineman that you just breezed past is now up on the backers, to your point. Yeah. And I'm not sure how good you're going to have to be to, get off those blocks against a really quick and fast running back that can break tackles and is shifty, as we saw that kid was. So it's kind of a tell and tell thing. But like I said, the plays that we do make up front in the front seven, it's for the same reasons. These guys are quick to the ball. And that's kind of, things that we've touched on last year where maybe I'm not too fond of, but at the same time, it's like I never had the athleticism that these guys have. Yeah. So we have Abdul and Denai, they're off the ball, but, not every play is a pass play. If you get upfield too much, then that C gap, B gap that's a bitch for a linebacker, like against anybody. So like you said, like talent or better talent, offensive guys, that's a difficult play to make. And that kind of leads me to, I know Abdul is great, but I still think I like him back there off the ball and then still rushing in certain packages. But I think the health of our team coming into the season dictated a lot of that. But I said it last year, he was getting better and better, affecting all three levels of the defense. And, maybe we have him back there, a stack backer. He makes a lot of plays that, maybe a less athletic guy can't make, where the guy's on him, but he's so quick and downhill. But nonetheless, the guys up front had created pressure when we needed it the most. And the linebackers, like you said, there's definitely work to be done. Tony Rojas, each week, he's collecting experience in the bank to how this defense runs. And that's honestly, as much as I may not like it, that's the defense that we have. The guys up front, we talk about all the time, they're a little bit smaller, but they're quick. And that's what we have to use to our advantage. When it's good, it's good. When it's bad, that's kind of the result.
You gotta kind of live with it, right? You gotta live with the repercussions. But I think the one thing that you hit on without saying it is they were patient enough to make timely plays on defense
Yeah.
throughout the whole game, right? Like they tried to do some things. They got gashed. They mitigated the risk for the most part. They mitigated the damage with pursuit or whatever.
Yeah.
And I just thought that at the end of the day, when they needed to bow up, they bowed up. Like we didn't get them to third down a lot early in the game, but when we did, they were like 0 for 6.
Yeah.
So we did a great job winning those situations. It was just they were much more explosive on first and second down than we probably would have liked.
Yeah.
And then, of course, towards the second half of the game there, we turned the ball over, only resulting in 6 total points with 2 turnovers, which is massive. So it's like you sit there and you start talking about timeliness of when they bowed up versus, maybe just some, again, I think trying to force it too damn much.
Right.
I think we got to live with it, and I think they'll only continue to develop more and more with it. But you highlighted a couple guys. I think it's a great time right now to kind of dive into our Ziebart defensive play of the week. And B, I've been, I think, a little too involved in these things moving forward as an offensive guy. So I'm gonna let you run with this and go from there. So what do you got for the Ziebart defensive play of the week?
Man, the Ziebart Defensive Player of the Week. Let me share my screen here. It has to go out to Nittany Lion. There was a few plays that were possible here, but this kid in overtime, I think this play was huge. There were a lot of monumentous plays that happened down the stretch of this game. Let me make sure you got me here. Am I teed up here?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
2nd and 10 overtime. Just had an incomplete pass. And they decide to run it. Let's get some yardage here. That's the mindset. Incomplete pass, first down. Now let's get some yardage, make third down better, and go with a run play. And as we said, we made our fair share of plays in the run game, but we had gotten gashed as well. And as you see, we have a pressure look here, and Nittany Lion off the backside forces a 3rd and 13. It really should have been 15. That was a 5-yard loss, but they didn't give him that. And honestly, you don't block the guy. I'm not sure what you expect, but I don't think they expected the speed off the ball. And honestly, if he's not there, we have guys. We have Tony get off the block here. We have Edge Force here, and we got Kobe getting over the top here. I like our chances, but Nittany Lion coming up big, like we said, and moments where we needed our front the most, they came up big, forced a 3rd and 13, and we know how to third down happened. I'll take our chances on 3rd and 13 any day to force the field goal that they ultimately missed. Pressure here again. I mean, it was beautiful. Even if they kick that field goal or make that field goal, I still like our chances to win. So Nittany Lion gets our Ziebart Defensive Player of the Week. I
love it. And the nice thing there, you touched on some of the other elements. Obviously, the interception was big, obviously, but I think that this one was a unique one. People didn't really talk about it. On the backside too. I think it was Zane Durant looping back around. It was almost like that old school crack replace to beat the zone read and stuff. They were also really sound there, and I think that's what allowed him to, when that tackle pulled, he just shot because he knew he had the backside help, and he chased Jersey, and it took him right to the play.
And that's a prime example of exactly what we were talking about, because we've made that stunt a few times during this game, and we got gashed on it. If we had all 22, I'd tee it up. Yeah. But number 4 had some big plays off that exact stunt, to where during the game it's like, man, I wish we'd just play straight up gap sound, especially on run downs. But those are the kind of things we do to create havoc. And like we said, when it works, it's like Ziebart defensive player of the week. When it doesn't, obviously it looks a little different. But timely stops, man. And these guys keep collecting crunch time moments, experience throughout the season from week 1. I think, and I pray it pays dividends in the next few big games we have and playoff time. Well, if we get there, when we get there. So I like what this team is building right now. It's not pretty per se, and I know we always come back and want more of these guys, and we see it. If we really crunch down the tape like they do, they see the plays they could have made that were there to really pounce on these guys, and maybe the game looks totally different. But just keep chipping away, offensively, defensively, even special teams, because obviously that was the winner. But I like what the defense is doing right now. Definitely a lot to clean up. Still building, still getting better. Because because it's not really necessarily going to get easier any week.
No doubt. You hit it on the head there, brother. Let's flip it over to the offense real quick. You touched on Tyler Warren earlier, so I won't dive too far into that. Kid's a fucking football player.
Dude.
I thought we were able to run the football well enough to put us in a situation, but then I think really the game dictated us to have to get away from it. And I really want to highlight here. I shot out a tweet during the game of the dude from the Busch Light commercial.
Yeah.
Right after Drew went down and did that drive. I shot it right after he threw that touchdown to Nick Singleton. And I was like, the imagery behind that was the kid's fucking sack dropped. Like that was his you could put this shit on me and I'll get it done. I'll backpack this. We'll take it to the top of the hill. And I think every quarterback who's, I'm not gonna say worth a damn, but every quarterback who wins his team over has moments like that.
Yeah.
Like guys that you can rock with when it's crunch time. And up until this point, Drew hasn't really done that. He's had opportunities. He had Ohio State last year. He had Michigan last year, and he hasn't risen to that occasion. And I think that might have been the only question mark left in that locker room with Drew, especially with the way he played this year. Threw some picks early.
Yes.
Last year rattles him, throws him completely off. He's back to check down Charlie. Let's play efficient football and go. I just think like the game dictated putting us in a position where we had to put the ball in his hands. And I cannot say enough good things and how much that means for him and also this football team moving forward throughout the rest of the season. And then secondarily, another guy who I want to give a lot of flowers to, hasn't been involved a lot, had a few flashes here and there throughout the year up until this point, had two really, really bad drops early in this game. But again, when it's not cutting time, fourth fucking quarter, fourth down, Julian Fleming comes out, makes a really, really tough contested catch on the first fourth down, and then does it again on the second, 4th, and 7. That's a vet. That's a guy who's been around greatness at being at Ohio State previously, made the play when we needed to make it. I think that's going to be really good for his confidence. Now, I'm going to say this: watch out for him to have a hell of a second half because of those two football plays. Because you've been a guy that's harped on this from the beginning since we started doing this podcast. You said confidence can be a hell of a thing, and I think that those two plays could be monumental for 3 moving forward as well. But offensively, do you got anything to add there? Because I thought they showed fight. I thought the guys that needed to make plays made plays when they needed to. I think the game dictated some of the way we had to call it. Yeah. And, hats off.
Yeah. I mean, the game definitely did, and that's what we spoke about. There's going to be moments throughout this season, in Drew's career aside, but where he's going to have to do that. The run game, like you said, it did well enough. I don't think we quite dominated the way we would like, Not sure if that's something on tape they'll see. I'm sure there will be. But like you said, nut cutting time, 4th down, we have to throw the ball. Your 5-star quarterback, 2-3-year starter, has to make the plays, and he did. And I think, once again, confidence, like you said, not just for Drew, because I feel like having that year under his belt from last year, I kind of feel like he came into the season with more confidence, but he hadn't had to do what he did this past weekend yet. So this only bodes even further along down the line. But for the guys on the outside,
it's a different
guys on the outside, like you said, Fleming. And I got to give a shout out to Wallace, man. He made a lot of plays during this game as well where, at the beginning of the season, it seemed like, okay, he's the deep threat guy. He's the big play guy. And maybe that dried up a little bit, slowed up a little bit. Not too many, 40-yard plus plays, but key 3rd down slam, bang, get open. Really good route. I think on that same drive that we're talking about, if not the next drive, I can't remember. The 20-yarder kind of honey hole pass he had, maybe 3rd quarter catch he had, which was a great throw by Drew. Great touch. Cam got popped by the safety. And even down the red zone, Drew missed him. He got open on a bang 8 slant type of route where T. Warren got stopped late in the game. But I like him a lot down the stretch. His confidence seems to be sky high. My guy 5, he had a bad drop 2 weeks ago, and I feel like that kind of maybe banged him up a little bit confidence wise, but he had a really good catch on the sideline. Might have been his only catch, but those key plays like we're talking about, those are banking confidence.
And the other thing we said was is this offense built to play from behind?
We weren't sure.
We weren't sure. Do I think we can do it consistently? I still don't know.
Yeah, you don't want to ever be in that position. For sure.
I still don't know. You don't want to have to be in that position, but at least if we're going to be fair and go off of historical data here now and what actually happened and not live in the world of hypotheticals, they checked that box this week, man.
They did. So, I mean, I said it, halftime. I said, hey, I think I tweeted out, look, I know this doesn't look too pretty, but I've had full confidence. We just settled down, line up and play ball. This game is ours. And best believe they came out halftime. They came out halftime with the maturity and fire under their ass that me and you spoke about we need coming in week to week, first quarter. Yeah. That same, and it's been 2 games in a row now, that halftime, and I know we were a part of teams that had a different, second half, and I'm not going to take that away from them, but to be the team we want to be, whatever the hell's going on in that halftime locker room, like we spoke about in Illinois, we bring that off the bus, and this team will like where they're sitting at the end of this season.
So that's a great transition point, right? Jason said it. I agree with him when I was sitting there watching the game. This team gives me 2016 team vibes. Second half team. This game was like, without the early loss to Pitt, this game was like that Minnesota overtime win for you guys, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So let's take that as the starter of this whole block here, and let's look ahead.
Yeah.
Now, right, we got a bye week coming up, positioned perfectly, in my opinion, for this team. Get your legs underneath you, get healthy. You got a road trip to Wisconsin, which is a team that's getting better, was beating the piss out of this USC team at halftime. USC ultimately came back and ended up beating them. I think that's a similar type of look ahead. If we're gonna skip this bye week, look ahead a little bit. Similar type of thing. Like, I think no matter what happens, as long as we don't absolutely just implode up there in Madison, we'll out-athlete them at the end. Yeah. But then you have the game. The game. It's the game of the year. And you got Ohio State coming to town, big noon kickoff, fucking all the pageantry and hype. Guys talked about it potentially being 1-2. Ohio State goes down, knocks a little luster off it. But I think that makes this Ohio State team a little bit more dangerous because you better believe they're going to be damn near. They've done this in the past. Yeah. And we're not talking living in a world of hypotheticals. They're going to come in strapped, ready to go because they know they're playing for their season. But let's just frame this as a look ahead, right? How much does this win mean for this team? Not on paper, not projections, but like you and me now, right? Sitting in a locker room as captains of the football team. Like, what does a game like this and the outcome of the game mean for the rest of the season?
Yeah. Man, it's so tough. And I thought about this without even us talking about it, because this game is going back to the 2016 season. In some sort of way, it means everything, but it also means nothing. In the sense that gutsy, ballsy win, like you said, nuts dropped. I don't care what they're ranked or not ranked. That was a good-ass football team that we went across country and slugged it out with and came out on top. And just like I said about, who was that, Bowling Green, even though it shouldn't have been that, it means something when you can dig deep and pull out a win where it doesn't look too bright at some point. So as a young kid, confidence-wise, all that, it means everything. But it means nothing because, like I said, each week it ain't getting no easier.
Yeah.
Wisconsin, I don't care what they're ranked. By the time we line up, as you said, they're coming for it all. Especially as we keep creeping up this AP poll, it just makes things, the other team kind of salivate even more. Especially if maybe they're not in the running. Like, we always got the best out of any team. We're freaking coming off of sanctions, and people want to whoop Penn State's ass. Like, we're top 3, and it's damn sure people are gunning for us.
You're getting to like the end of the Hunger Games.
Yeah, like, come on. So in that sense, is that we can't necessarily, and to Coach Franklin's, mindset, want to know each week, great win, let's cherish it, let's check the tape, get better, and then USC was last week. Now it's it's bye week, but now it's Wisconsin because we lingered too long on this great victory. Those Wisconsin Badgers are coming strong, and then as you just said, after that one, we can look past Wisconsin because we're not playing, we're just talking. But that's the game. But they can't be thinking about the game until Wisconsin's done and dealt with and handled correctly. Yeah. So that's where it's kind of like, as a captain, it's kind of like, hey, we did great. Now let's reframe. Let's get back here and move on to Wisconsin. It's done.
I like it.
That's kind of got to handle. You got to be mature enough to handle business that way. Similar to like a SEC, mindset where every week is dangerous. Like we said, the Big Ten's getting more parity. So that's the mindset you got to have, because it's gonna get. We've seen it get wacky in the SEC already. For our sake, mentally strong, business-like, let's not let it get wacky for us.
What I'll say is, and I think you painted a beautiful picture. Agree with everything you said perfectly. It means everything, but it means nothing. That's chef's kiss. I love it. You're a linguist, B. What I will say is,
it's the blue. It's the blue still.
A little bit of the blue-white bourbon talking.
Yeah.
What I will say, though, is I think when you talk about us previously, like think about last year, the first real test where we were going against, and think about this, like this USC team is sitting at 3-3 or whatever the hell they are, but they beat the number 8 team in the country at the beginning of the season. Mm-hmm. Now in LSU, right? So we're talking about parity. Like I think you need to take away the record. You need to take away the ranking, and you need to look at roster, team, history, expectations, put it together. And this was an on-par game for a Michigan or Ohio State, which is the gauge now Coach Franklin's been judged by from the fan base, right? And the past few seasons, because we haven't had this opportunity outside of those two programs, realistically speaking, on a week in, week out basis, we failed those tests a lot. That's why I think that this win means so much more. And subsequently, without getting this too confusing, like flip the coin, and I heard Todd Blackledge talking about it during the Ohio State and the Oregon broadcast, was Oregon had already been in a dogfight this year. Ohio State hadn't.
Right.
Did that play into the outcome of the game? I don't know, right? But it's an interesting point to bring up, where Oregon had to go out and grit one out against your Boise State team, right?
Yeah.
So for me, like when I'm sitting here thinking about this, and it goes back to also a point we made a few weeks ago about how this team, I don't know if this team, if greatness is anything other than a surprise to them. Up until this point. And I think this game answered that question, where consistent greatness and elite expectations now should not come as a surprise to them, because they did it. Like there's power in doing stuff like that, right? Like there's power in feeling success. Like everyone talks about how failure is like the biggest driver and determination of success. Like, nah, fuck that, dude. Like get down in the trenches and fucking gritting it out with a foe and winning. Like I want to fucking win. Like winning's going to make me feel more and more confident, because now I've been there, done that. You know what I mean? I'm not wading into uncharted waters. So like for me, this game means a little bit more. And I hope I painted that picture well enough without being too confusing, because I can go on a bunch of different spider webs, but I think all of those points are valid and ultimately brings you back to the main outcome of what I'm trying to say is like this game is different. It was different. The outcome means more. I think how this team ultimately plays now, and this is where I'm giving you the nod of like, it means everything, but it means nothing. That's a whole nother ball game. But they don't have an excuse now, because you felt it. You tasted it. You tasted blood, right? Are you a fucking shark, or are you a fucking guppy? Like what are you?
Seriously, man.
You know what I'm saying? When you taste blood, are you gonna hunt and be the apex predator now?
Right.
even though you're being hunted, or are you just gonna swim with the other fish? So that's why I'm so excited about this game, this outcome, like what it means, individual players, team outcomes, like just I'm praying to God it's not a letdown, because that was a fucking epic rant.
Right.
And
That's all. That's really all I'm saying.
And I love it.
In my messages. But hey, GP, we gotta clip that one what Hack just said. You gonna be a fucking shark or a guppy with the rest of the fishes? That's a social piece for damn sure. It gotta be. I like that.
Yeah. I mean, but seriously, that's what I think that this means, right? And I think the media is going to downplay it a little bit because of the record and because of all this other shit. But when you're a football guy and you peel back the onion, like that was a really good football team that's 3 plays away from being undefeated.
Yeah, literally.
Legitimately 3 or 4 plays away from being undefeated.
Yeah. And in your messaging, what I hear is what you hear a lot of just a sports fan in general, but like, oh, this team doesn't know how to win. And like, some people's like, what do you mean they don't know how to win? You know, you win and lose games all the time, but like, no. Knowing how to win is a gutsy performance. And it's not all necessarily about making the plays to win, which obviously it is, but in college sports, especially young kids, it's about not beating yourself in the crunch time moments. How many times have we been in a situation, as you can look down the line in the past years, 3rd and 5, crunch time, false start or some shit like that.
Yeah.
Where it's, okay, now it's 3rd and 10 against a really good team. Your odds are not that great, you know. And there's been so many times and moments throughout these years as a fan, we can all think of them, where it's like shoot ourselves in the foot. But knowing how to win is being mature. Sometimes it's within the system, and hey, coach calls a great play, and it's open, and it's fine. But other times it's 4th and 3, nobody's open, you're about to get sacked. You keep your eyes downfield, and you find a guy, you know, twice in the same drive. Sometimes that's what it is. And to your point, they showed it. You tasted blood. So to your point, there's no excuse going down the line. Things are going to be tough. They're going to be tough. Telling you that right now. Do I pray we steamroll every team? Sure. But do I know that's not going to happen? Yes. So these moments, to your point, the game is big. But for the same reasons I'm saying, there's going to be more big games, big moments that we are now should be prepared for.
I love it. So to close out the peek ahead box of this episode of The Pocket, I got a massive circle on Ohio State, but I'm not overlooking Wisconsin.
Can't do it.
And I'm getting healthy this week in the bye. Don't do it.
Yeah.
Good shippy. That's AA plus analysis from you, and I appreciate you bringing this shit every week. Now it's
a lot better when we win. So boys in that locker room, keep it up.
Yeah, it's a lot easier when we win. Let's get to it. Mailbag. Y'all came out. You guys came out heavy this week. Heavy. I made sure I was in the Letterman Lounge. Game ended. I was charging my phone because it was hurting, and I was like, you know what? We're gonna get this out quick. We're gonna get this out as soon as possible. And you guys jumped to the rose to the occasion here for us. So I'm not gonna hit all of them. I think I'm gonna try to do a better job of answering one person's, but trying to answer 3 or 4's with that answer in terms of just general coasting here. So the one that I want to start with is on X from from our guy Farzad. I think that's right. Farziness, at Farziness. He hit us a couple times last year, and I appreciate your consistency and loyalty to the pod. But what builds more confidence, a win like today or a season's worth of practice? It's a good hypothetical.
Yeah. A win like this.
Yeah.
No way. I mean, we just banged a bunch of points. Why? I mean, practice is great, but, you know, Saturdays, it means it's just different, obviously. You know, going up, anybody that's played sports, going up another opponent, especially a good one, like we said, really good athletes over there, really good coach, scheming up a lot of good plays, you know, And they know it, and that's why it means more. It's like, hey, a lot of those dudes over there were really good. You know, we talk about Miller Moss all week. He'll find himself playing in the league on Sundays. I think he's a really good player. A lot of those receivers have been very explosive all season. All those games that we watched, those receivers were a key reason why they were, you know, right in those games and the games they won, even the ones they lost. Those receivers made a lot of plays. And we saw number 2, big-ass kid. They got a bunch of guys who were dangerous. Number 1, Branch, has been like – he was looking like Reggie Bush last season. You know, so the corners, I said them getting in the game, you know, they knew they were up for a challenge. The other team made plays, you know, obviously, but I think that's why it means more because that was a really good team.
I agree. Let's answer a couple of these really quick because we've already answered them. Matt Fitz, at Matt Fitz 20. Question for B-Bell. Does he think we should deploy Carter more at linebacker and then move him around more from there depending on down and distance? I feel like he's much more effective at the second level and him next to Tony. B, I thought answered that really well, so make sure you listen to the beginning of the podcast. Vincent Gray, at Vin_Gray. Love the show, guys. What's causing these slow starts? There's also a few other folks here that asked about the slow starts. And then secondarily, could this win give the team more confidence and swagger to potentially win the Big Ten and more, much like the win against Minnesota did to the 2-2 2016 team? We already hit on that earlier in the pod, so make sure you listen to that as well. But we'll answer the one question, what's causing these slow starts? We touched on it a little bit, B, but let's just dive into it to make sure that we answer what we can for a few of these other folks here that have asked some questions. So what do you got for that?
Yeah, I mean, this one was tough, like we said. You know, I thought those first, offensively speaking, those scripted plays, it seemed like were killing. We had everything, you know, Coach, we've heard him talk about the vanilla Dairy Queen with everything sprinkled. That's exactly what, you know, it seemed like offensively, and they had no answer. And like we said, if we punch it in for 6, I think these questions are not, they're not hitting our mailbag. You know, I think the narrative of a quicker start looks a little different. We talked about the OPI, questionable, very highly questionable. I don't like it. Mm-hmm. That plays a part. Once again, if we go for 6, I don't think these questions are in there. Defensively, you know, I think we have to take a better look at what we do well and what opposing offenses, especially really good offensive coordinators, which I'll link Bowling Green and USC in the same boat of they're attacking our strengths. And a lot of times you look to attack someone's weaknesses. They attack our strengths, which what we touched on the D-line segment of like, it's kind of give or take, die by the sword. And I think if we kind of hone in on that a little bit to understand, I'm speaking from a linebacker perspective at least right now, is in these second, third downs is, okay, how would this team attack me? Based off the tape against us these last 6-7 weeks, what we've done well and what we haven't done. And it's like, okay, for me, I'm thinking, okay, I'm feeling screen here. I'm feeling something because our edge rushers, they're going to get us going. How can we counteract that? As a linebacker, if I have my backer, my running back man, third, second and longish screen drawdowns, you know, sometimes it's a bitch regardless because they're going to send blockers, but like, how can I cheat to get over top or underneath this incoming blocker? Because I know a screen draw is coming. They're going to attack us this way. I think we kind of hone in on some of those and the slow start narrative because you see what we can do defensively. Yeah. I'm not too concerned about that right now, to be honest.
Yeah. I think you answered that beautifully. I really have no additional points to add to that. You know, I just think we actually did start faster. Now let's look ahead to the next few weeks to now converting those 3 to 7s, and I think that at least offensively that completely wipes that whole narrative out. And to take the glass half full approach, you know, the way that we come out in the second half at the end of the day. It's good. You don't ever want to get it into cardiac time over and over and over again because eventually it's going to bite you in the ass. But the ability to make the adjustments at halftime on both sides of the football and come out and play really, really well, that's a testament to the coaching staff and what they can do in a short period of time to get those guys ready to play and just what's ultimately happening on the field and hurting them. So, Let's go to WTU9438 on Instagram. Why our run game not working very well yesterday? I'm sure he meant to say was, but could be the Blue White Bourbon talking for me as well. But I think, I'll jump on this one, B. I think like I said earlier in the pod, I thought we ran it efficiently early in the game, but when we got ourselves in a hole, the game dictated us to have to go away from it. And I thought we did a good job of not completely abandoning it. But the same token, sometimes you got to drop back and play recess football. You're down 2 scores. Yeah. Let's go put the ball in our best players' hands and see if they can make plays. Fortunately, our best player in 44 was consistently making plays. And to answer a few more folks' questions, just talking about Drew and the moments and what he did throughout this game, yes, he did it. Now, kind of what you said, that means everything and it means nothing, because now you've raised the floor. The expectation when this type of moment arises again is for you to execute, because you've shown the propensity to be able to do it. So, that puts you in a different category, young fella. Yeah. So make sure you're ready for it and preparing for it. I know you are. So I think that knocks out a bunch of folks' questions there. Let's go to the last one. Michelle Ann Locke on Instagram. There's also a gentleman on X, or I believe it was a gentleman, who I want to give a shout out here. So do not hold me to this, and sorry as I'm scrolling because I'm not working too well here. Anyway, I'll get to it. But the genesis of the question is thoughts on what it takes to beat Ohio State. And that was from Michelle Ann Locke. And again, I think there was a few other folks just talking about Ohio State in general. People are obviously fired up and have that game circled similarly to what we do, as we've mentioned here already. What does it take? And I think Ohio State, showed a little bit against that Oregon game. If you watch that defense that had seemed to be just this iron wall, showed some gaps. I think a lot of it comes down to your Jimmies and Joes type of matchups, though. They play man. They love their corners. They rely on their talent and their recruiting. They put those guys in situations to go win in those 50-50 balls. And Oregon ultimately was able to make more of those than Ohio State was on Saturday. So I think for me, it's just putting yourself in a situation where you don't get in a hole, because I think it's going to be tough to overcome the same hole that we did against USC with a team like Ohio State. But you put yourself in a situation where I think Dan Lanning articulated it perfectly, where you're just throwing jabs. You're just throwing jabs. You don't have to throw a haymaker against Ohio State. You just have to be in it in the fourth quarter. If you're in it in the fourth quarter, you give yourself a chance. Yeah. So you just have to sit there and throw jabs. You have to play a little defense, not get chin checked. And when that time comes, there's going to be a time when they're sweating. You see a little delayed reaction after you give a little fake jab, where you come with that hook and knock them out. But I think that's ultimately how you beat Ohio State. You just have to take the game to the fourth quarter and it be very, very tight. And then the boys that you now literally pay the money to have to make plays.
Yeah. Yeah. And just to kind of sprinkle more on top of that, I think doing exactly that, like you're saying, staying in the fight, jabbing right with them, because they're going to be jabbing. Yeah. Is a lot of what we saw this past weekend. Hey, we didn't run the ball, let's say, to our standard. And Ohio State has a great front. So will I like to rush for 200? Of course. Do I think that'll happen? Probably not. But can we do it consistently enough to appease to the pass game? Keep some of these second, third downs shorter. And hey, can we gash them? Damn sure we can, and I hope we do. Those could be the haymakers that we're talking about. Yeah. And then defensively, we're going to have to tackle. I think to keep it simple, we're going to have to tackle, because we're going to be in a lot of similar situations. We're going to have to man up and challenge their great players. We'll sprinkle some zone as we always do. But when it comes to those man plays and they catch the ball, we're going to have to rally and tackle. It was a few years ago where we had them tight, and then we just couldn't tackle. Some of their weapons got a little too loose, too much space, because our pressure was getting there, and I believe it can, and force some tight throws. But if they do catch it, we have to tackle these weapons they have. And maybe that Jalen Reed Reed had a great third and 6 tackle this past week on USC number 6, to where if he misses that kid's skating for a big play. But third down stop, we're going to need a lot of those.
Love it. We will not be back because we are not playing with actually, we might drop a mailbag. I'll see how we're feeling this weekend. I know we got our South Zone duck season opener here, so I will be in the marsh Saturday morning, but I will be out to watch some football. You better believe that. So maybe we'll see how I'm feeling. We'll see how B's feeling. B's got the youngin. I know he's a couple months behind me. I know what he's going through right now. So we'll see how we're feeling. We might drop a mailbag. Probably going to highlight more and dive more in depth into what we started this week's episode with in terms of around college football, outcomes of some of these games, shakeups that could potentially happen, and maybe some a little more in-depth analysis on Wisconsin. As for me, that's something that a team I haven't really gotten to sit down and watch. And obviously I don't have access to all 22. Otherwise, you guys would be getting a super nerdy football cast because that's shit. But maybe sit down and watch a little bit more Wisconsin, give you guys a little more in depth on that. Yeah. But other than that, hell of a show, B. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. I thought that was great banter back and forth. I think you guys are we're going to continue to try to bring you the best analysis, coverage, reaction, thought process surrounding Penn State football here at The Pocket, and then state media as a whole. Make sure you're staying tuned in for some of our social clips. Check the Wise Nittany Minute coming out. That's going to be quick, digestible. If you don't want to sit down and listen to the whole episode, which I really hope you do, but if you don't got the time, check that out. And we appreciate all the support here at State Media. Make sure you're following us on all our socials at State Media PSU. You can follow B-Bell personally. You can follow me personally, as we are always retweeting and pumping out the best stuff that we humanly possibly can. So with that, that's another wrap here at The Pocket. We appreciate y'all and see you next week.